What is up, Zone Heads? Welcome in to the latest edition of the Zone Heads podcast. Brandon Kravitz here, and this episode presented, as always, by Kevin Crager from LPT Realty, one of the top 25 producing agents in Central Florida. Kevin brings deep knowledge of market trends, the latest home buyer programs, and cutting-edge real estate technology. So if you want more than just an agent, if you want a trusted guide who knows homes inside and out, call Kevin Crager, my guy with LPT Realty today. Your future home will thank you. I am inside of my current home, which we bought a year ago. It's hard to believe that it's been almost a full year. I believe it's 11 months as of right now. But right behind me, fantasy football draft kits from CBS Sports. Shout out to my guy Alex, who works over there at CBS, for mailing those over to me. But these will be featured at the Zone Heads Fantasy Football Draft coming up on August 29th at the Wing House on Kirkman Road. So look forward to seeing a lot of you out there for that. If it sounds like I'm under the weather, it's just kind of like a face, esophagus, nasal thing. My kids started kindergarten last week, and already bringing home all new germs. I thought that being in daycare for the last couple of years would have me ridded of all sort of viruses that will be brought into this house. Not the case. There's new ones out there, and these kindergartners are they're menaces to society, and it's killing me right now, especially with this week being such a big week professionally. Big changes going on at the radio station. Game On with myself and Mike Bianchi is now live. It started yesterday. Full circle moment. I started my radio career with Mike Bianchi 15 years ago in the small, dingy studio up on the fourth floor, the same place that we work at right now. But humble beginnings, answering phones for free. I'm sure I've told you this story 1,000 times already, so I'm not going to bore you with that one again. But I love working with Mike. I'm so excited that we're back on the air together. And more than anything, I just think the show is really good. I mean, we've only had one episode together so far, but early feedback has been positive. Some people saying there's way too many ads. I don't disagree with that. It's one of those things that I wrote down a list of about 10 to 12 items that I feel like need to be cleaned up from episode 1 to future episodes of this live show from 3 to 6 p.m. But all in all, I mean, content is king. So as long as we are delivering the content that I feel like our listeners want to hear and doing it in an entertaining and provocative way, even humorous at times, and I feel like we're doing our jobs. And that is what I feel most confident about from the first episode. So hopefully you guys are able to tune in live. And if not, the podcast feed will be updated. I know that process has already started, but just the way that this technology works, sometimes it takes more than 25 hours or 24 hours rather. That's the cold medicine right there. Just adding an hour to the day. I could use it, by the way. But the way that this technology works, when you're updating these podcasts, sometimes it takes more than a day in order to flip the artwork and the descriptions and things like that. So the In the Zone Best of the Best feed, if you're subscribed to that, that's the exact same channel where you're going to get Game On content. So if you're subscribed to that channel, just stay subscribed to it, and soon that artwork will change over to Game On with myself and Mike Bianchi. If you haven't heard the show yet, I think you guys are really going to like it. Quick update in the fantasy football world, because last night, Monday Night Football, preseason week 2, there were fantasy gems all over the place. So I had to pop on and talk to you guys about this as well. Bengals Commanders, that game from last night. Joe Burrow, first of all, I mean, you've seen this now 2 weeks in a row. He's going to get off to a hot start this year. They have committed to the idea that they're not going to start slow. Joe Burrow already looks like he's in midseason form with the way that he's slinging this football around, touchdown passes in both weeks. He is going to be so good for fantasy football if his offensive line doesn't get him completely killed, which is very much a possibility, because he was running for his life last night in a preseason game. Not what you want to see. He got cracked twice. If I was a Bengals fan, I would I would be terrified, and I would say, please get him off the field for the remainder of the preseason. But so far, so good in terms of the quality of play. It's just a matter of him not getting hurt before he steps onto the field for games that actually count. And hopefully he's able to make it through the season. He's had injury issues in the past, and that offensive line doesn't do him any favors. Now, on the other side, the other offense, Jaden Daniels with one of the most beautiful touchdown runs I've ever seen inside of the red zone. He's going to be tremendous as well. So you got a good glimpse of how good those two quarterbacks are going to be. Not a surprise to anybody. This doesn't move ADP at all because both Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels were already going to be locked in to be two of the top quarterbacks taken in fantasy football. Just know that if you take those stabs in round 3 or round 4, I don't think you're making a bad decision. But one of the guys that's running behind the quarterback for the Washington Commanders, it was going to be Brian Robinson Jr., but he's having some contract disputes. And the latest report coming out from very credible NFL reporters is that Brian Robinson Jr. is on the trade block. So he didn't play last night. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, a 7th-round pick that's been getting all sorts of buzz in Washington Commanders training camp. He took the field last night, scampered 25 yards to the end zone. It doesn't look like he's all that fast, but definitely has good vision. And if the offensive line is going to block like that, whoever the starting running back is for the Commanders is going to have fantasy value. So the fact that I had brought him up on the live show yesterday, and some fantasy analysts have been hot on this guy for the last couple of weeks. Then he scores a touchdown. This is somebody you're going to see climbing, but don't completely ignore Chris Rodriguez either. He played very well, 10 yards per carry last night. They're both starting for a start. They're both fighting for a starting job alongside Austin Eckler, but Austin Eckler's not getting any younger. So that's not a guy that I necessarily want to rely on in terms of fantasy. I don't want to overdraft him. I'd rather get one of these other backs at a much cheaper price. But if Brian Robinson Jr. moves on, one of those two between Krosky-Merritt and Chris Rodriguez are going to have very real fantasy football value. Another guy that we saw in the backfield going back to Cincinnati for a moment that I think is a major lotto ticket. This is a guy that I want to draft in every league that I am in, just based on the way that I see things shaking out in Cincinnati. That's Taj Brooks out of Texas Tech. Major lotto ticket. We see Chase Brown now with Zach Moss gone. They're giving Chase Brown all this work. I do think Chase Brown should be kicked into anybody's top 12 at running back. If you go to zoneheadsmedia.com, where I have the full list of the top 12 series that I did, I have Omarion Hampton as my 12th running back. I need to go ahead and swap that out. Chase Brown needs to be inside of the top 12. So I'm in on Brown, but Chase Brown is a smaller running back that is not used to this sort of workload. He could very easily get dinged up early on in this season. We saw him getting goal line carries and getting absolutely crunched by defensive linemen. This is a smaller running back. It would just, if you're projecting injury, we're not making crazy leaps to connect these dots that Chase Brown's going to have a hard time playing all 17 games. And Taj Brooks is his backup. He was excellent in college, as most of these guys are. That's how they get drafted. But he's got a great opportunity in a great offense. Another name, deep sleeper, Jalen Lane, wide receiver for the Washington Commanders, 4th-round pick. Speedster. If Terry McLaurin's contract situation doesn't get figured out, this could be a sleeper situation. That's Jalen Lane, and that is deep. So if you're in one of these, like the Zone Heads League goes 14, we have 14 teams for like 18 rounds. That in that kind of draft, he should probably be taken at the end of the draft. But I want to get into a breakdown today for the first college football game that we're all going to be locked in on, and that's Iowa State versus Kansas State. A Big 12 battle. And hey, being here in Orlando, Florida, we're a Big 12 city now. So I'm not going to always do an episode on two random Big 12 teams like this. But this game is the one that kicks off the season. So we're all going to want to bet on it. I have a lean off of first glance, but I wanted to take a deeper dive to see if we can actually extract some value from this game, or if I just want to bet on it because it's the first game that's on this season. I have to ask myself this question, as we all should. Would you be betting on Iowa State versus Kansas State if it was in the middle of a college football Saturday? And If the answer is an immediate no, you should probably convince yourself to lay off. I know that if you like betting on sports, you like having a little bit of action in the game. I totally get it. I'm right there with you, but we're trying to make smart wagers. We are trying to turn this recreation into something that is profitable, and it's impossible to be profitable if you have a system, or even if you just think you're listening to the right people. If you bet on everything, the percentages over time are going to kill you, and you're not going to make any money. So that doesn't mean you can't bet on this, but you just have to be honest with yourself. Are you only betting on it because it's a standalone game and the first game of the season? I myself would definitely be looking at an Iowa State, Kansas State game. So I feel like for me, I can pass that test and say this is a game that on a college, if this was on at noon in mid-September, I might bet on this. So I'm taking the deeper dive here. I do think I want to be on this game, but I want to make sure that I'm not just gut betting. I'm actually doing some research. So I did some of that here. We'll see if we can come up with an answer. The first thing to understand is that this is a big-time quarterback matchup. Avery Johnson versus Rocco Beck, two of the best in the conference. Johnson had a pretty great game last year against Iowa State, 3 touchdowns, 220 through the air. He struggled to complete passes, but the statistics otherwise were there. The Cyclones got the win, 29-21, and Rocco Beck didn't even have to do anything extraordinary. He had like 129 yards passing, so very much game manager type of situation. Obviously, the travel home field advantage is neutralized in this one. This is the Aer Lingus game. It's being played in Ireland. The betting splits on the action are not available yet, so I would love to see that as a source. I'm probably not going to bet this game until I see those. The Action Network app is my favorite place to get that. You can also get it on VSiN, where they show you where the bets and the money are coming in, the percentage of bets on a particular side and the percentage of money. And if those two sides are out of whack, it's usually a tell, not with every sport, but with big time college football games, with NFL games. I feel like it's more telling because the public actually has a say in how these lines move. And if the public is loaded up on one side and all of the money is on another, that is a clear red flag. It doesn't mean go and bet it, but you should at least pause if you're on the wrong side of that. If you're betting with the public and not with the money, you need to perhaps reevaluate things. So those are not available yet. I have a feeling I know how this is going to look, though. Iowa State was plus 3.5 at some books. So the fact that it's come down likely means that sharper action is on Matt Campbell's team. So I would expect more money to be on the favorite, more bets to be on the favorite in Kansas State and more money to be on Iowa State. That is what the line has suggested. However, so that initial read is Iowa State plus the points. Kansas State is projected to be excellent this year. They are the odds-on favorite, right ahead of Arizona State in the Big 12. Kansas State is plus 525 over at Hard Rock. Iowa State is 11-1. So the odds makers are projecting there to be a big gap between these two teams. S&P Plus is another metric that I like to look at. ESPN does a really good job, quietly with all this noise of the hot takes and the Pat McAfees of the world and all of the sensationalistic journalism / entertainment that this website puts on and this conglomerate shows to all of us. They do a really good job with power ratings in college football and in the NFL. If you go to their betting tab, they'll have all of this stuff listed. But S&P Plus is a really advanced metric, just grading out how good these teams are. Grain of salt, all of this in college football at the start of the year, because we don't really know anything, but I'm going to defer to people that definitely know more than I do. And that's where this S&P Plus, before the games get started, I think does hold a lot of value. So this is where we're at. Kansas State is a 15.6. The highest rating, by the way, is Ohio State. They're the highest rated team in college football at 29.5. So that's just to give you a relative idea of what we're looking at and what these numbers mean. Kansas State at a 15.6. That's pretty strong. And that means that they would be 14-point underdogs against Ohio State on a neutral field. That's not bad. Iowa State is an 11. So that means that the spread for this game, because you can do the math on this and figure out what the number should be on a neutral site, which we have in this particular occasion, should be Kansas State minus 4.5. So given the value here, a full point is pretty strong. We're looking at, this is actually a 1.5 right now with Kansas State being favored by 3. So my early read on this is that I want to be on the team that's simply better to open the season. I think the tendency for some is to be on the conference underdog. It does seem like the sharp money is going to be on that side, but my analysis points me in the direction of the Wildcats. I like them minus 3. I'm not going to bet it quite yet. I want to see what those splits look like, but right now I'd be on Kansas State minus the 3. That does it for this week's episode. Back at it next week for more great sports betting, fantasy content. You can visit zoneheadsmedia.com to keep up with everything that I've got going on. And of course, a special thanks to the sponsor, Kevin Crager. Bye for now. We'll chat soon, Zoneheads.